than what it has by way of leadership today, and therefore our fullest support in order to get stronger, tougher sanctions at the Security Council and take the necessary decisions is what you have. I have said to President Obama that with Angela Merkel and Gordon Brown, we will make all necessary efforts to ensure that Europe as a whole engages in the sanction regime. On the Middle East, it's excellent news to hear that the United States are thus engaged. And of course, peace in the Middle East is something which concerns primarily the Israelis and the Palestinians. However, the absence of peace in the Middle East is a problem for all of us, because what it does is keep feeding terrorism all over the world. And I wish to express my solidarity vis-à-vis President Obama in condemning the settlement process. Everybody knows how engaged and committed I am vis-à-vis Israel's security. But the settlement process achieves nothing and it contributes in no way to Israel's safety and security. There comes a time when you have to take initiatives in favor of peace. Now, on financial regulation, again, it's great news for the world to hear that the United States is availing itself of rules, adopting rules, so that we not go back to what we have already experienced. And during the French presidency of the G20, Tim Geithner, Christine Lagarde are going to be working hand in glove in order to go even further in regulating world capitalism, and in particular, raising the issue of a new world international monetary order. Now, on all these subjects, there's a much convergence of views. And of course, I want to say to President Obama how glad we were for him and for the USA to hear of the successful passing of the healthcare reform. And insofar as the president has revealed a secret, namely where I had lunch today, I should say that I have a good friend in Washington who had actually recommended that restaurant. When I walked in, I saw a huge photograph of President Obama. And I'm afraid that when you go back to that restaurant, you may see a smaller photograph of the French president.
We've got time for a couple of questions. I'm going to call on Ben Feller. There you are, Ben. AP.
Sir. Thank you for your patience. President Obama, you've talked about the importance of having consequences for Iran over its nuclear program, but is there ever a real deadline? What is your specific timeline for UN sanctions on Iran, and is it one that the American people can believe in?
Well,
and I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask President Sarkozy, you said yesterday in New York that the world needs an open America, an America that listens. I'm wondering if you can elaborate specifically if you think President Obama is open to the world and is listening to you.
Well, let me answer the second question, even though that was to Nicolas. I listen to Nicolas all the time. I can't stop listening to him. On Iran, we came in with a very clear approach and a very clear strategy, and it was an open book to the world. We said we would engage Iran and give them an opportunity to take the right path, a path that would lead to prosperity and opportunity for their people and a peaceful region, and one in which they would allow themselves to become a full-fledged member of the community of nations. The alternative path was further isolation and further consequences. We mobilized the international community around this approach, including partners like Russia that in the past might have been more hesitant to take a firmer stance on Iran's nuclear program. What we said, though, was that there was going to be a time limit to it, and that if we had not seen progress by the end of the year, it was time for us to move forwards on that sanctions track. My hope is that we are going to get this done this spring. So I'm not interested in waiting months for a sanctions regime to be in place. I'm interested in seeing that regime in place in weeks. And we are working diligently with our international partners, emphasizing to them that, as Nicolas said, this is not simply an issue of trying to isolate Iran, it has enormous implications for the safety and the security of the entire region. We don't want to see a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. A conflict in the Middle East as a consequence of Iran's actions could have a huge destabilizing effect in terms of the world economy at a time when it's just coming out of a very deep recession. The long-term consequences of a nuclear-armed Iran are unacceptable. And so Nicolas, myself, and others agree that we have engaged. The door remains open if the Iranians choose to walk through it, but they understand very clearly what the terms of a diplomatic solution would be. And in the interim, we are going to move forcefully on a UN sanctions regime. Now, do we have unanimity in the international community? Not yet. And that's something that we have to work on. We think that we are in a much stronger position to get robust sanctions now than we were a year ago prior to us initiating our strategy. But it's still difficult, partly because, let's be honest, Iran is an oil producer, and there are a lot of countries around the world that, regardless of Iran's offenses, are thinking that their commercial interests are more important to them than these long-term geopolitical interests. And so we have to continue to apply pressure, not just on Iran, but we have to make sure that we are communicating very clearly that this is very important to the United States. We think that we can get sanctions within weeks.
Well, I've read many comments, and I must have been quite amused on the relations between European leaders and the President of the United States. I say I'm amused because I've thought to myself, well, when we speak to one another, people must be listening to our phone calls, because I have seen reports on conversations and discussions which in no way resemble anything that has ever taken place between Barack Obama and myself. Now, why is it easy for us to work? And I speak on behalf of Chancellor Merkel, or Gordon Brown, and other leaders. Well, because President Obama, when he says something, keeps his word. His word is his bond, and that is so important. There's a joke among us, we don't like surprises. Well, from that point of view, there's no surprises. When he can, he delivers. When he can't, he says so. So there are no surprises, and we try to be likewise. Furthermore, secondly, on all topics, and there have been some pretty tough topics. I mean, for instance, bonus taxes on bonuses, regulation, financial regulations, pretty heavy-going stuff. Copenhagen. I mean, I happen to think that President Obama is a step ahead of public opinion in the United States on this. But we're constantly talking about it. It's even President Obama who wanted us to have a call conference, a video conference virtually every month with Angela Merkel and Gordon Brown. Now, this doesn't merely mean that we absolutely agree neck and neck on everything, but we talk amongst ourselves. And this is a novelty from the point of view of Europe when we look at the United States, that everything is put on the table, anything can be discussed, everything can be discussed. What matters, you see, is not whether we agree once systematically before we've even started discussing things. That's suspicious. Is to say, whatever divergence of views we may have, we can talk about it among ourselves. And I say things very frankly to you, and this is what all we European leaders believe and think.